Welcome to Dashing Dish. Today's show is all about berries. From sweet to tart, my sister Emily is going to be joining me in the kitchen as I share some of my favorite berry recipes. Our berry menu includes strawberry shortcake muffins, a 3-berry fruit pizza with a soft cookie crust, a Dole Whip made healthy, and gluten-free crumble bars bursting with juicy blueberries. It's a berry explosion in the kitchen coming up next. So today's show is all about berries, sweet, juicy, tangy. I like them all, but we're gonna start with my favorite berry of all, which is strawberries. I happen to be a June baby, and Maddie, my baby, is also a June baby, so one of our favorite traditions is to pick strawberries in the beginning of June, and then I always try and figure out what kind of creative spin can I put on a strawberry recipe, with a healthy spin as well, of course. So this is my strawberry shortcake muffins. And so we're gonna start with 2 1/4 cups of oat flour, 1/4 cup of sweetener, and you can use any sweetener you like, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, and then we're just gonna give these dry ingredients a stir. And when I created this recipe, I got home and Maddie was just 1 at the time, and I thought, I really want to make strawberry shortcake. And then I thought about the labor of love that strawberry shortcake is, and I thought, with a 1-year-old, yeah, it doesn't sound so fun. So I thought, okay, what could I make that Maddie would enjoy just as much as I would enjoy strawberry shortcake? And so I created a muffin that's kind of the best of both worlds. It's easy to eat, bite-sized, perfect for a toddler, but also just as delicious as dessert. Then I have 1 cup of Greek yogurt, and this really gives it a thicker texture, but it also replaces the moisture that you would normally add with butter or oil. Then I have 2 eggs, and just a teaspoon of lemon juice. And that just sort of brings out the tang of the strawberries. Then I'm just gonna stir this all together. So the first time that I took Maddie strawberry picking with me, I was really excited because, like I said, it was a tradition since I was little to go strawberry picking every single June with my mom. So the first year that we could go strawberry picking together was when she was 1, and I thought, well, this will be really fun to take a 1-year-old strawberry picking. And lo and behold, it wasn't as fun as I thought, because shortly after I realized, okay, she's hot, sweaty, sticky, and she's eating all the strawberries instead of actually picking them with me. So that was a lesson learned, but we still had memories, we took pictures, and so that was just more for the picture memories, and I'm sure a lot of moms can relate. Sometimes you just have those pictures and you're like, okay, well, at least we got the pictures out of it. And then we have 2 cups of diced strawberries. So I just used fresh strawberries. If you wanted to use frozen, you could. You just want to make sure to thaw them first and get any excess moisture out. Because if there's a lot of excess moisture, what will happen is these muffins will actually become too wet and they won't form together and bake. Okay, so now I just have a 12-cup muffin tin that I lined with parchment paper cups, and these come in really handy because you basically don't need to spray your pan at all and it won't stick to the paper cups. So those are my favorite things to find at the grocery store. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and scoop the mixture into the 12 muffin tins, just like that. And you can see how pretty these already are, so when they bake up, they literally smell like strawberry shortcake baking in your oven. All right, so these look great. I'm just gonna pop them in the oven at 400 degrees for about 20 to 25 minutes, or until a toothpick comes out clean, and they will smell absolutely delicious while they're baking. Here in the Midwest, our berry season begins when the weather warms up, which is typically about the beginning of June. And being that I was born in June, my mom decided it would be fun to take my sister Sarah and I strawberry picking for my first birthday. Her plans were to collect enough strawberries for all the guests at my party to have strawberry shortcake. She used the strawberries that we picked to make homemade strawberry shortcake for about 25 people, which is a true labor of love. She still recalls that her favorite memory of that day was that I ate about a pound of berries and I was stained from head to toe with bright red juice for days. I love berries so much, in fact, that I ate them every single day when I was pregnant with Maddie. And when she was born in June, I knew that the sweet tradition of strawberry picking would continue on with her. Ever since she turned 1, we've been strawberry picking together. And so far, she seems to be a berry-loving girl, just like her mom. If you've ever been to a Disney theme park, you've probably tried, or at least heard of, a Dole Whip. And the original recipe calls for ice cream, but today I'm going to make it using the pure sweetness of summer berries. Here's how I made it. To make the strawberry Dole Whip, I combined 4 cups of frozen strawberries, 1/2 cup of almond milk, 2 tablespoons of sweetener, 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, and a pinch of salt, and blended everything until it was smooth. I then scooped out the mixture into a plastic bag and popped it into the freezer for about 10 minutes to firm up. Okay, so we have our Dole Whip that's made, and I just put it into a Ziploc bag. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cut the corner end off. And you don't have to do this, you can just put it directly into a cup or a bowl and enjoy it just like that. But I like to make it swirled and pretty, just like Disney does it with their Dole Whips. So in order to do that, I put it into a Ziploc bag and I just kind of squeeze it out. And you can kind of do a swirling motion, just like that. And how good does that look? So if you like frozen yogurt, you like ice cream, you like sorbet, you will love this recipe because it really is a blend of all 3. And so I'm gonna have one now, and then I'm gonna pop one in the freezer for later. And you could make these ahead of time and pop them in your freezer for about 20 minutes. You don't wanna go much longer than that or they will get too hard and frozen. But they rarely last that long in our house anyway. Enjoy. Did you know that you can capture the same health benefits of berries when they are frozen? They're much more cost-effective and just as sweet and delicious as fresh since they're harvested in berry season. Coming up next, the berry explosion continues in the kitchen as we make gluten-free blueberry crumble bars. What could be better than pizza for dessert? Today we're making a shortbread crust pizza layered with cream cheese whipped frosting and topped with 3 berries. And doesn't that sound delicious,
Sounds
Emily?
so good.
My sister Emily is here joining me and we're gonna make this fruit berry pizza, and I'm gonna have you start with the frosting and I'm gonna start with the crust. And the frosting's really simple. It's basically just cream cheese, sweetener, and almond extract. And you could put a little bit of lemon juice, almond extract, just some different flavorings if you wanna kind of spice it up a little bit, but it's really simple. So I'll have you mix that together, and I'm gonna make the ingredients, I'm gonna mix together the ingredients for the pizza crust. So to make the crust, it's 1 cup of oat flour. And Em, do you use oat flour often in baking?
That's the only flour I have in my house. That and almond flour.
Yep, and then 1/2 cup of almond flour. So what do you typically like to make with oat and almond flour?
I love making your muffins because it's a really easy snack that I can grab out of the fridge, but the whole family loves them. So I give some to Brett to take to work and the boys for breakfast or a snack. Super easy.
And the benefit of using oat flour and almond flour, a combination of the two, is oat flour tends to be a little bit dry on its own. So if you add some almond flour, like in this crust, it just adds a little bit of moisture and healthy fat. So you get not only nutritional benefits, but it tastes really good as well. So this crust kind of tastes like a shortbread cookie. So
It's
delicious.
amazing that you can make your own crust instead of a store-bought one.
So I just added 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, and a little bit of salt. Then I'm gonna do 1/2 cup of sweetener, and I'm gonna stir this together while you get that mixing.
Okay. Make sure it doesn't go everywhere. This looks so good.
That looks great. And make sure too, I forgot to mention that you soften the cream cheese. It makes it a little bit easier to whip. Then I have a 1/2 cup of almond milk, just a 1/2 cup of applesauce, and then I'm gonna do 1 full egg and then 2 egg whites. And what I love about this crust recipe is, do you remember making these when we were little? And what did we use? We used the packaged cookie dough crust.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's
And I
amazing you can
think
make your
that
own.
typically that's what we're used to seeing with these fruit pizzas, is that you use a pre-made or pre-packaged sugar cookie dough crust, and obviously not very good for you. But this is so simple, and I think a lot of times when people think of packaged food, they think, oh, it's just easy, I just want to make something easy, but really this is just as simple. So I just did 2 egg whites and a full egg in there.
I remember when we were little, we'd go get pizza out, and we would always get tons of different kinds of pizzas, like a buffet. And then they had different kinds of dessert pizzas. So like we grew up eating this, but it definitely was not healthy.
It's true. And I was just thinking through this is just a summer dish, I feel like, or a summer recipe. You just think of fruit pizza and you're like, yes, that's summer. But it's perfect for 4th of July or Memorial Day, anything that's patriotic, of course, because you can do raspberries, blueberries, strawberries. And so you can just cut the strawberries kind of to make them pretty to go on a pizza. You could even do chocolate chips on top. But I was thinking through all my favorite summertime desserts, and this is definitely one of them. I remember having this when we were little all the time with not only the canned cookie dough, but also the canned frosting that went on it. And so this is our own homemade spin, just as simple, and you will definitely impress your guests. So I'm just gonna kind of mix this until it's combined, and then I have a springform pan. So I'm gonna pour the ingredients for the crust into a springform pan here that I sprayed with cooking spray, and then I'm just gonna bake this off. And what you wanna do is when you're building your pizza, you wanna let the crust cool completely once it comes out of the oven. And that's really important because when you have any kind of cream cheese frosting or any frosting at all, you never wanna put it onto a hot cookie, because what that will do is it'll melt the frosting. And then once you top it with frosting, then you can top it with your beautiful berries. And so those look really great, and our raspberries and blueberries already look perfectly ready to go. So I'm gonna pop this into the oven, 375 degrees for about 20 to 25 minutes. And when it's all set, we'll top it with the frosting and then the berries.
Sounds good.
I love fruit salad, a fresh combination of berries and melon that are sweet and juicy. Now, when it comes to fruit salad, I always try to subtly dish up a portion that only includes my true favorites. And similarly, when it comes to walking in the fruit of the Spirit, I find that it can be tempting to pick the fruits that we enjoy the most while leaving others willingly behind. It can be tempting to choose the ones that sound nice. Joy, peace, sure, I want those in my life. But gentleness and self-control? No thanks. I'll eat around those. The only problem with this you pick two mentality is that without the entire fruit basket on display, our lives will be lacking characteristics that draw people to Christ. Growing in the fruits of the Spirit isn't something that we do by digging deeper or trying harder, but rather the fruit of the Spirit will start to grow naturally the more that we obey God's word and respond to His leading in our hearts. So we're saving our best berry for last, in my opinion, because it's the smallest but also the sweetest, and that's blueberries. And we're gonna use blueberries today, and we're gonna make blueberry crumble bars. And this kind of is a mix between like a blueberry pie and a blueberry crumble made into bars. So what could be better than that? So we're gonna start by I'll have you make kind of the crust and the crumble topping. It's all in one bowl, you just save a little bit for the topping. So that's super simple. And then I'm gonna make the blueberry filling for these bars. And I'm gonna start by turning on my stovetop to about medium high. And then I have 2 cups of berries, so you could use fresh or frozen. And then just to make the crust, I'm gonna have you do 3 cups of almond flour, and then
2.5 cups.
We're gonna do some oats, some syrup, nut butter, baking powder, and salt. And you just kind of put it all into a bowl. I'm gonna let these berries heat up, and I'm gonna add to it just 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. And 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. So this is just to sweeten up the berries a little bit, but also to kind of thicken the filling. And we're gonna kind of let this come to a point where it's simmering. Give it a little stir here. So I did start with frozen blueberries, and I just kind of thawed them a little bit in the microwave, but you could essentially make this whole filling right in the microwave. You just take a microwave safe bowl like this, put the filling in, and microwave it for about 2 minutes until it sort of thickens up and all the berries pop. So that's what we're looking for, is for these berries to pop. And what I love about your crust that you're making is that really, I think a lot of times when people think of crumbles, they think butter, flour, sugar, and you need a lot of butter.
Yeah.
So instead, we're just using nut butter, and we're using almond flour instead of white flour.
And
of course,
sugar.
Yep,
Got
natural
syrup.
sweetener. So I mean, really, it's just as simple and definitely good for you and nutritious. And then at the same time, it has that crumble feel to it because of the oats and then the nut butter. And a lot of times in my recipes, I like to use nut butter instead of butter or oil. You could also use applesauce as a great swap out. You could do mashed banana or pumpkin in place of oil and butter in a lot of recipes. So these blueberries are looking great. And do you like to use frozen or fresh berries?
I always do frozen because it's cheaper and it does not go bad in my freezer. So, and it's
That's
so
true.
easy and versatile to use. Like you see that you can use fresh or frozen. It is fun to get like fresh because we like to pick some of our own berries. We'll go to a local farm, and we did blueberry picking. Actually, I was 9 months pregnant when I did blueberry picking with Easton.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And now you're strawberry picking with Quentin on your front pack.
Yeah.
So imagine
good
getting
workout.
down low and squatting the entire time onto the ground with a toddler behind you and a baby in your front pack. Well, he's not even a baby anymore.
He's almost 1.
He's pretty large.
Yeah.
So I was pretty impressed, and I'm pretty sure your thighs hurt.
I got
for about
a really
week
good
after
workout that day. Yeah.
And here I'm complaining when we got back onto the wagon. I said, oh gosh, that was so exhausting
It
with
was
Maddie,
hot too.
you know, who's a toddler. And it was so exhausting strawberry picking with a toddler. And she said, don't complain. And I was like, that's a good point.
Why do we always go on 90-degree days too?
It's true,
Right?
it's true. But berry picking is a really fun way to get fresh berries.
Yeah.
And also, I don't think a lot of people realize you can actually freeze your frozen berries. So if you like fresh berries, you can just freeze them right away. I like to put them onto a sheet pan in kind of like a uniform way so that they're not clumped together. Freeze them and then pop them in an airtight container. And then they're good really for up to 6 months or even a year.
Yeah.
So these berries have now kind of got to the point where they're kind of bursting here. So that's exactly what we're looking for. Now I'm just gonna add my cornstarch mixture. And this is what is called a slurry. So it's just 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. You could also use arrowroot powder and 1 tablespoon of cold water. I just mixed it together so that it forms a liquid. And what the slurry does is it actually thickens just about any sauce. So if you ever have a sauce that you're making on a stove and you're thinking this is looking a little bit thin, then cornstarch is the perfect way to do so. And so we're just mixing that in until it thickens, which is about 1 to 2 minutes. And that looks perfect there. Then I sprayed a 9x9 pan.
Perfect.
Your crust is looking perfect.
Yep.
I'll move these out of the way for you. And you can put about, well, I would say leave about a cup for the topping in your bowl, and the rest you can just press down. And then I'm gonna turn the heat off for my berries because this is looking thickened, and so that'll be the perfect filling. It doesn't have to be perfectly thick because when you pop it into the oven, it will continue to bake and thicken. So Em, I'm just gonna come in here. Can I help you? And I'm just gonna use a measuring cup to kind of flatten it. You can also just use your hands like this.
That's easier.
But sometimes, if you want a really nice, kind of uniform flat crust, I like to take the bottom of a measuring cup and kind of help me flatten it like that. So now if you wanted the bottom of these bars to be really, I guess more like a cookie, kind of crispy, you can bake this ahead of time before you put your topping on.
That's a good idea.
And you can just bake it for about 15 minutes at 350 degrees, just the bottom, kind of like you would a pie crust. But if you like it to be more like a crumble and kind of oatmeal texture, which is what I prefer, then you can just kind of do it all at one time. So I'm gonna top this with the berry filling here.
That smells so good.
And then I'm just gonna smooth it out just a little bit. Do you like blueberries?
I do.
You know, I didn't really love blueberries until I had Maddie. I was always a strawberry fan. And then I started feeding her blueberries and just kind of popping them in my mouth when I was feeding them to her. And they're especially good frozen. And I like to have just a little bit of monk fruit sweetener that I sprinkle on them and pop them in my freezer just like that. And then it's kind of like almost reminds me of like a Sour Patch Kid, because sometimes they're a little bit sour.
Yeah.
So that's a really good snack to have if you're craving something kind of cold and you're kind of craving something sweet.
Now you could eat this hot or cold, right?
Yes, and so after you bake this and it comes out of the oven, you can have it hot, or you can just pop it in your fridge and you can enjoy it later.
You could have it hot with some ice cream.
I was just gonna say.
Sounds good.
Enjoying it with some ice cream or some whipped topping
yeah.
is my favorite way to enjoy this. So after I'm done sprinkling the topping over the top, I'm gonna pop it into the oven, 350 degrees, for about 30 minutes until the topping is nice and golden brown. Coming up next, my sister Emily and I enjoy the fruits of our labor as we dive into all things sweet and tart. Is there an area in your life that you feel you are lacking in the fruits of the Spirit? When we nurture our relationship with God and stay connected to Him, the more fruit we will produce. Well, Emma, I had so much fun, as always, making all these recipes with you today. And look at how beautiful all these berry recipes are. The best thing about berries is not only are they nutritious, but they're beautiful. So we could take any of these to a gathering and people would think that we did something magnificent. And it's all the beautiful berries. So we have our strawberry shortcake muffins. How good do these look? And you know, this was one of my very first recipes that I created almost 10 years ago. And then the fruit pizza, the blueberry crumble bars, and the dole whip, which is a hit all year long, but it's one of our favorites in the summer. We eat it almost every day. So you can go ahead and try the blueberry bars.
It smells so good.
Doesn't it?
I'm so glad that I have new recipes for when we go berry picking, either strawberry or even blueberry and raspberry picking.
Strawberry picking is definitely one of Maddie's favorite things, and I know she loves strawberries too, so she'll love these recipes.
This is delicious.
And for more recipes just like this and more, head over to dashingdish.com, where you'll find tons of healthy recipes to nourish your body and soul.